Wow, we've got a great crowd here tonight. This is great. I'm just going to get us started. Normally Cindy is the host and she gets things started for us. She asked me to be the host here tonight. I'm just going to do a quick introduction and then I'm going to turn it over to Ray, our mayor. He's going to have some introductory comments. For those of you, because we got a lot of folks here that don't know me, my name is Joe Kubo. I am the alderman from Ward 4, and which is Caroline Lakes Ward. And we have some more aldermen here with us, a lot of folks you might not have seen before. Maybe you've seen them on TV. John Verche is with us from Ward 1, Darrell Jefferson from Ward 2, and we have Tina Oberlin from Ward 3 and Mark Sapini from Ward 3. Some folks behind us, we have Mark Seifert. Mark, introduce our Strand associate. Chris is going to be doing all the talking, real soon. I know Chris by first name.
So tonight we have Chris Olm from Strand Associates. We also have Mike Sanchi from Spatian Taylor. Some other Strand Associate members on the back. Assistant Director of Public Works Blaine Klein is in a blue suit back there. City Engineer Ron Wiedemann in the brown suit. We also have some utility building people here. So we have a lot of staff here for you tonight. We'll let the mayor get everything started, and we'll be in touch.
And let's not forget, we have Christine Verche Hall, our city clerk, and our city treasurer, Glenn Conklin. So we got the whole group here with us tonight. I think you're going to find this discussion very informative. I'm glad we have so many people out here tonight. I know I've learned a lot here in the last couple of months. Ray, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to call your order the City of Crest Hill work session on December 1st, 2021 at 6:33 p.m. For the record, this meeting is taking place in the Caroline Lakes Clubhouse, which is located at 21325 Caroline Lakes Drive. The topic of discussion for this evening will be a public forum discussing the option of acquiring Lake Michigan water for the City of Crest Hill. And as with any work session, I will ask for our city clerk for the taking of the roll call. Chris?
Thank you. Ray Solomon.
Here.
Glenn Conklin.
Present.
Scott Dyke. John Verche. Here. Darrell Jefferson.
Here.
Claudia Gazal. Tina Oberlin.
Present.
Mark Sapiti.
Here.
Nate Albert. Joe Kubal.
Here.
Thank you.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and this is a fantastic crowd. I will tell you, this is the third one we've done now. We did one on Monday night at a different location, and we did one last night, and this is by far the largest group that we have had. So I appreciate all of the of you being here this evening. We certainly want to, this is a very important topic. This is probably the most important topic that the city has ever had to face. So we certainly want to hear your opinions. We are going to give you a lot of information tonight, so bear with us. This is a very large crowd. We certainly want to hear your questions. We want to hear your comments, both positive and negative. That's what we're here for this evening, but have some patience. I think with a group this size, hopefully we will be out of here between 8 and 8:30, but we want to make sure that everybody that wants to speak has a chance to speak. So I will begin with opening comments here to begin the presentation. For the past 12 to 15 months, we as a city have been exploring all of our options to find the most cost-effective method to sustain our water supply. There have been some recent discoveries and study results that affect our city's future water supply. As you have probably heard, many of the surrounding area communities are searching for alternative sources of water because their deep aquifer is being depleted. This is due to it being used far faster than it can be replenished. Unlike the type of aquifer we use for our water, their deep aquifer takes hundreds of years or more to be recharged from the surface. The aquifer we use is a shallower aquifer and is quickly and readily replenished from rainfall. While that alleviates any concerns about having enough water available in these aquifers, to treat and use in our homes, it unfortunately creates other potential concerns. These include negative impacts to environmentally sensitive areas, and more importantly, the possibility of elevated levels of contaminants in the water supply, which require additional treatment. While concerning ourselves with these current negative impacts, we also must look to the future and the continued growth of the city of Crest Hill. It is projected that we need at least 3 additional wells before we reach the full growth of our city. And we are currently having a difficult time finding a cost-effective location for 1 well, let alone 2 additional wells. In addition to this obstacle, as regional deep well communities bring Lake Michigan water to this area, this will give even more strength to regulatory agencies to deny additional wells for the city of Crest Hill. Because the city of Joliet and the other surrounding area communities need to act soon to get their infrastructure in place, our obstacle of adding additional wells and the new finding and concerns with elevated levels of contaminants, such as PFAS and chlorides, requiring treatment to continue to provide you safe drinking water, the City of Crest Hill commissioned a study of alternatives moving forward with our water supply. We have recently learned that cost projections to add more wells and treat the water for chlorides and PFAS will cost more than joining the Regional Water Commission forming in the area. Therefore, we are strongly considering our option to join the commission, but we want to hear from you and answer any questions that you may have about this decision. We have set up public meetings with city staff and engineering consultants to further discuss intricacies behind a decision of this magnitude. This will be the most important decision this city council will have to make. We have been actively researching all of our options, and at this time, it appears that our most cost-effective option to sustain our water supply in the future is to join the Regional Water Commission to receive Lake Michigan water. This will come with extra expenses and costs that will result in higher utility bills for all of our residents. However, Lake Michigan water will be an improvement in quality, and the sustainability of our water needs will be met for many years to come. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in regards to this issue. And again, this will be a very important issue. We certainly want to make sure that our water is sustainable for years to come. Not only for us, for our kids, for our grandkids, great-grandkids, for the next 100 years to come. So with this large crowd, and we certainly want to make sure everyone is heard, I'm going to ask that if you do want to ask a question, you step to one of the microphones in the aisle, and you will be heard. I would ask that nobody shouts from the audience, because with this group, we have to keep everything in order. So we will give everybody a chance to speak. You will speak at the podium. When you do come to the podium, please state your name for the record. Now, in the first 2 presentations that we did, we had a lot smaller crowds. We broke into groups, and we went through the 4 stations, and that was part of the presentation, and then we came back as a group and we answered questions. Unfortunately, that's not going to work in this room with this size of a crowd. So what we decided to do tonight is to change the concept a little bit. And when Chris Ulm gets up here from Strand Engineering, he's going to go through each one of the 4 stations that you looked at and that are in your handout when you first came in. So you can either look on the projector or you can look in your handout to follow it. But what we're going to do is he's going to start on station 1. Give him the opportunity to explain everything. He will then open it up for questions in regards to what he had just said. You can ask the question at that time. When all those questions are answered, we'll move to station 2, then 3, and 4, and then at the end, we'll open it up for general questions on anything that we talked about tonight. So that's going to be the concept tonight. Again, with this large enough a crowd, if we broke it into 4 groups, nobody would be able to hear it. So we want everybody to hear it. We want to hear your thoughts. We want to hear your comments. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to our Director of Public Works, Mark Seifert, for some other comments to be made. Mark?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, and especially thank you to everyone here in attendance. Like the Mayor said, this is the largest decision that the City of Crest Hill will be making in my generation, your generation, and for generations to come. So it's impressive and amazing to see such a large crowd interested about water, interested about the future of the City of Crest Hill, and to appreciate the work that we've put in to present to you tonight. So without any further ado, I want to thank Chris before he gets up here for the amount of work he's done. I'd like to introduce Chris Allen from Strand Engineering.
Wow. Thank you, Mark, very much. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having me back for the third night. I must be doing everything okay. They could probably give this presentation at this point in time, but they keep having me back, and I appreciate it. And again, I'll echo that. Thank you very much. A little bit worried because I love to talk water, and this could go all night with this many people because I tend to get sidetracked. So I will move forward with the presentation. Thank you for attending. These aren't on your handouts yet. We're going to get to those. The handouts that you have are basically the posters. This is just an introductory slide. I want to give a brief background on the next slide about how we got to this point, why we're even studying the water source in the first place. And then I'm going to go through the stations. Station 1 is a comparison of your current source of water with the alternative source that we looked at, Lake Michigan water. Station 2 talks about what is involved with switching sources, what is involved with switching to Lake Michigan water. Station 3 is how does this affect me? And the me in this station is you. How does this affect the residents? And then Station 4, I might have said Station 4 last. Station 4 is how does this affect my water bill? How are you going to see changes in your water bill? And then I want to talk about, after we go through all the posters, the anticipated schedule if the city decides to switch water sources to Lake Michigan. So background on why the research was even going on. So this slide is probably hard to see, is just to remind me to tell you that since 2014, the city has been trying to find another location for a well, for a new well. The wells are doing fine, they're keeping up, but they're starting to run longer and longer periods of time during max days. It's time that the city needs to get another well supply in so that the current wells can relax during periods of high demand. We know by about 2024, if demands keep growing, it's going to be very stressed on the current system, and an additional well needs to be installed. We're having a lot of difficulty, as the mayor said, locating a place where regulatory agencies will allow us to install that well. New findings and upcoming challenges, we're going to talk about that a little bit. The new findings with some contamination, trace amounts of contamination in the water, no need to fear, but potential for increases in that contamination. And then the fact that surrounding communities, as many of you know, Joliet spearheading an effort to get Lake Michigan water to the area because their aquifer that they're on, different than the city's aquifer, the aquifer that they're on and many of the surrounding communities on is running dry. It's being overtaxed, it's being depleted. So with that, bringing water out to this area, it offered an opportunity for the city of Crest Hill. So the first poster that you have in your handout, it should look similar to this. This is a poster that talks about the environmental and the conservation issues that are associated with the current source. Crest Hill is not running out of water, and the water is safe. The city faces issues with expansion and rising costs associated with the treatment process. And the effort here is long-term. So one of the issues that we're running into that's stalled us since 2014 is an environmentally sensitive area on the east side of town along the canal between Route 53 and the canal and river system. That habitat includes a Heinz emerald dragonfly, which is an endangered dragonfly, and the wells which the city uses are thought to have the potential to interfere with the groundwater table. The water in the shallow aquifer flows from the west side of the city down into that seep, and regulatory bodies are preventing any more drilling for a large portion of the northern half of the city to prevent dewatering of that area, which would potentially cause harm to that environment. So locations were found outside of that, but then those locations were identified to be very close to existing private wells. You can't put a high capacity very close to a private well, because that high capacity well that the city would be using would drain that private well and cause impacts. And there were a large number of those in another portion. So the area that the city can put new wells is becoming very limited. And we're even having a tough time within that area finding a good location. As the mayor mentioned, 2 more wells are foreseen in the city's future to keep up with the growing demands. So water quantity isn't the problem. It's becoming limitation of areas where additional withdrawal can happen. Joliet's need for a water source and other communities offered an opportunity, as you'll see, that they've decided to bring Lake Michigan water to the area. So the next, on the back of that, slide 2, this is information about some of the contaminants and the treatment processes that would potentially be coming up if these contaminants continue to rise. One of those contaminants is PFAS, perfluoral polyfluoroalkyl substances. These are substances that have ceased production in America, but they were used a lot in a lot of different products that enhanced our way of life. Scotchgard, Teflon, fire retardants, those types of things contained these, had a lot of benefits, but per and polyfluoroalkyl substances are called forever chemicals for a reason. They are not easy to break down. They stick around forever. So trace amounts of this have been found through a study that U.S. EPA in conjunction with U.S. Environmental Protection Agency in conjunction with Illinois Environmental Protection Agency is conducting, where they looked at a lot of shallow wells, most, if not all, municipal shallow wells in the state, and tested for these substances. Trace amounts were found in 5 of the 8 existing wells that the city has. Now, there's no regulatory limits, and IEPA and US EPA, the city is following all of their guidance and actions on that. There's no regulatory limits. There are guidance levels that are out there, but there's nothing set. US EPA is projecting to set regulatory limits by 2024, and then communities that exceed those regulatory limits would have to move to put in treatment processes to reduce that contaminant down to acceptable levels. The other contaminant that's increasing in the water supply is chlorides. These chlorides, while there are several sources of these chlorides, the main contributor is de-icing, is road salt used in parking lots, driveways, roadways, and paved areas for safety in the winter. These chlorides find their way rather effectively into the shallow aquifer groundwater supply that the city uses. So the other alternative source that is being investigated is Lake Michigan. Does Lake Michigan have any evidence of PFAS in it? It does. Again, trace amounts. Does the city of Chicago, their intake structures are 2 miles out and I believe close to 60 feet deep, whereas most intake structures are closer to 1 mile out and shallower. Does that added distance and depth help stay off the time before PFAS is evident in the lake? It's believed so. But PFAS treatment may be far down the road for even the city of Chicago. Okay. So, I guess what I should say before we go on that, so PFAS treatment, if the city switches to Lake Michigan via the city of Chicago and a regional water commission that's being formed, the city of Chicago would incur the cost for that PFAS treatment and spread it out over 5.2 million people that it currently serves and rising. That would bear less of an impact than if the city were to treat and spread it out over the 20,000 person population of the city of Crest Hill. So this slide goes through the pros and cons associated with the 3 options that we looked at for the future of Crest Hill's water supply. 2 of the options involved treating the groundwater to remove the PFAS and remove the chlorides. One of those brought all the water to a single plant in the center of town and then brought treated water back out. The other option looked at constructing 2 plants, one on the east side of town and one on the west side of town, and reducing some of the raw and treated water transmission main to reduce costs. Turns out that 2 plants had less transmission main and was the lower cost of those 2 options. The other option that was investigated on a cost basis, conceptual cost basis, was the Regional Water Commission. The Regional Water Commission is what it's being called now. The city of Joliet needs water by 2030. You'll see on the schedule here that I don't know where I was going with that. They need water by 2030, so they're moving quickly towards that process right now. Since they decided to bring Lake Michigan water out from the city of Chicago, they are looking for regional partners. It lowers their cost, sure, but regionalization is good for everybody. It lowers everybody's costs. So that was the other option that was investigated. That would be the city of Crest Hill joining the Regional Water Commission as an equal share member with the city of Joliet and any other regional community that joins. The pros and cons associated with those options: for the treatment of the groundwater, the pro was the city gets to maintain full control over the water supply and the rates. It is possible that advanced water treatment plants to treat for PFAS and chlorides are not needed for many years, depending on regulatory requirements for treating PFAS. Some of the cons associated with treating groundwater: you will likely have to treat for rising levels of PFAS and any other emerging contaminants that come up in the future. That would be fully your responsibility to remove. New wells, as we've mentioned several times, are becoming very difficult to locate. Advanced water treatment plants are much more complex than the current treatment processes. Right now, the city removes iron, adds disinfection to defend the water from bacteria as it goes to your tap. To remove PFAS and to remove chlorides, it's a much more complex process. Advanced water treatment plants are more expensive than joining the Regional Water Commission. When we compared the costs, the Regional Water Commission, because Joliet was bringing the water out, because that cost was being spread out over so many people in the region, the Regional Water Treatment Plant, or the Regional Water Commission, was the cost advantageous option. Pros for a Regional Water Commission: conceptual water rates remain competitive, comparable to all of the surrounding communities. All the communities are looking at the rates and the increases that are necessary to, which we'll discuss, to bring that Lake Michigan water out. Lake Michigan has a history of providing high quality water and consistent water quality. Other entities will contribute to future costs for future treatment of future contaminants. That's what I mentioned, where the costs are spread out over many, many more people. Very low risk of not being able to meet future water demands. We'll talk in a moment about the capacity of the City of Chicago's existing water treatment plants. Regional Water Commission is less expensive, as I mentioned, resulting in lower rates. Some of the cons associated, rate increases are immediate. The advanced water treatment plant to remove PFAS could be held off longer. If you choose to join, if the city chooses to join the Regional Water Commission, rates will increase starting immediately to ramp up for 2030 when the infrastructure is in place. The city will not have complete control of the water supply or the bulk water purchase rates. Bulk water purchase rates, which we'll talk about, there are controls, there are contractual controls on how much the City of Chicago can adjust those rates. But there is, the City of Chicago is still adjusting, has the control to adjust those rates. A Lake Michigan allocation process is necessary. Illinois is the only state that can divert Lake Michigan water. All the other states and provinces around the Great Lakes have to return any water that they take out of the Great Lakes back to the Great Lakes. Illinois is allowed to divert 3,200 cubic feet per second for navigational uses and for drinking domestic uses from Lake Michigan eventually to the Mississippi River. So you have to go through an allocation process, and Illinois Department of Natural Resources has to approve you and give you an allocation for how much water you can take out of Lake Michigan, being the City of Crest Hill. The City of Crest Hill also will need to do, under either of these circumstances, whether you treat wells for PFAS or whether you switch to Lake Michigan water, a lead and copper corrosion control study. And that is to avoid a Flint, Michigan, Tucson, Arizona, Washington, D.C., University Park type situation where the change in water quality would strip the protective lining off of your pipes and start to create copper or lead corrosion. So those are cons. Those processes have to be taken. The last one for either option. So at this point, that's a lot of information about shallow wells and treatment and contaminants in the Regional Water Commission. And okay, I'd like to pause and see if anybody's got any questions on that before we move on to something completely different.
If we could go to, if you do have questions, please go to the mic just so everyone can hear. We do have two microphones. One in row 2 right here, and then one back about 10 rows. We'll just go front to back, and be able to answer any questions you may have.
And please just state your name for the record. Your address is optional.
Can you go back from here? I'm wondering how deep you're finding our shallow wells. Why not build deep wells? In places.
So the shallow wells are 400 to 600 feet deep. Shallow wells are 400 to 600 feet deep. The next aquifer down is there's the St. Pete, which has already been completely depleted by the City of Joliet. The next one down is the Ironton-Galesville. The Ironton-Galesville is between 1,400 and 1,800 feet deep. And the City of Joliet, that's the one they're getting off of because, unfortunately, it's depleted. It's been overtaxed.
With Chicago, Lake Michigan going too high, you could be glad you could extra water.
Yeah, unfortunately, certainly.
Good evening, my name is James Kismere, and I was inquiring about piping situations. Now, each house would have to have their pipes replaced
No, sir.
because of this?
No, sir. So the lead and copper corrosion study that the city would perform would determine if any chemicals and it would be a phosphate type chemical, would need to be added to the water to protect your pipes so that they do not have to be. So the study is to make sure that the water is not going to hurt your pipes, and if it's found that it might hurt your pipes, then the city would have to add a corrosion prevention chemical, phosphates to the water to coat the pipes with phosphates that would then protect that from happening. So,
Well, I heard that galvanized piping that's used now is a bad source for the water situation. They want to replace that piping.
yeah, it would be lead pipe now, lead services. You want to take it?
Yeah. So but obviously in this area, galvanized piping, it has not been used to build a lot of these homes out here. Every home, I would guess, in Caroline is copper pipe. And that's because these houses were built in the 90s. So galvanized pipe, yes, but that's more of an aesthetic issue for water quality, for aesthetics. That's why homeowners are removing galvanized pipes more for aesthetic, because they do rust easier, they do corrode easier than a copper pipe. So, but that's why we would be doing a corrosion control study in order to make sure, if we need to add corrosion control inhibitors, we do that properly.
Is Carolyn Lakes got galvanized piping or no?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Chet Dudek, rate increases in the immediate. Now, how much? Rate increases immediate, what does that mean? How soon is it going to happen and how much? Any idea?
So, you're not going to like this answer, but we're going to cover that in one of the later stations. So if you could just hold on, we will get that in Station 4. And we will cover all of our projected rates for the next 10 to 20 years. So, unfortunately, I know you want to answer right now, and that's probably the most important question on everyone's mind. But if you let us get to, we're kind of building up towards that.
Okay. Lake Michigan allocation process. So they'll be allocating how much we can get?
That is correct. We have to go through a process, and they will let us know exactly how much we can take in order to make sure that we don't overtax Lake Michigan. Like Chris said, like Chris said, the state of Illinois is one of the only state that can divert water, so that is a precious natural resource that we're trying to protect.
Because right now we have a good supply of water, and then Lake Michigan has a history of going up and down. What happens if the lake levels go down, and then all of a sudden they decide that we're taking too much water? What's going to be our alternative? Are we going to be reverting back to wells again?
No. So the wells would be retained for an emergency purpose only if something catastrophic happened to both of Chicago's plants. Chicago's north plant, which I'll talk about in a minute, spoiler alert, it produces 1 billion gallons of water a day. The south plant produces 500 million gallons of water a day. Crest Hill needs 4 million gallons on the max day. So there is ample water that can be run through the plants. City of Chicago is very confident in that. The allocation process, the city of Crest Hill provides the population and the growth projections for going out to the future. So we drive how much those allocations are, and it's based on an average rate over the entire year. You're allowed to exceed that by 15% on any given year. You're allowed to exceed it by 5% on a rolling 5-year average. And the IDNR does not want to control the city's growth. The IDNR wants to control the amount of water that the city loses, just leaks out of pipes, and they want to reduce that to less than 10%. But if you're exceeding the amount of allocation that you've got because of growth, because you have a big industry that comes in, or something like that, they want you to get, there's an allocation adjustment process, and they want to adjust that. They do not want to prevent the city from growing by restricting water.
Another thing about this corrosion study, you're talking about adding chemicals. What are these chemicals that you're going to put in our pipes?
Yeah, so the city of Chicago already adds it's called orthophosphate. It's a phosphate. It's found in Coca-Cola and Pepsi and products such as that. They already add it. You currently add it. The city currently adds it as well. So it's likely that nothing is going to have to be added. That it's already in there, and your pipes are already coated with it as it is.
Now, you talked about maybe them holding back on supply of water, and we would have revert to wells. That's just a possibility. Are you going to be maintaining those? Is there going to be any process that you'll be maintaining those wells, and what's involved in that?
Yes.
Does that mean extra cost to keep them up to par?
No,
Something should happen?
the wells themselves will be maintained, monthly sampling. They have to be turned on once a month and sampled and then turned back off. That is the extent. Many of the communities that currently receive Lake Michigan water have the same thing. Downers Grove has a number of wells, Schaumburg, Naperville. They're very low cost to sit there and hopefully never ever be needed at all. Thank you. Moving on?
Can I ask one question?
Yes, Tina.
Because it's just something that I personally am very attuned to and have researched a lot about.
What,
And
the
I
mic?
don't, I just feel like it went a little, oh, I'm sorry. It went over a little glossy, I thought, is that there is currently no acceptable level of PFAS. We don't know if there'll be any acceptable level because it is a forever chemical and it is not good for you. So the fact that we don't have a level that says we have too much now just means they haven't established it yet. I want people to be aware this chemical is not a good thing. It is not a good thing in any way, shape, or form. So I don't want that to be taken lightly. I've done a lot of research on that. So
Thank you.
I guess that really wasn't a question.
That was not a question.
Statement. I'm sorry.
All right. Okay, this would be slide number 4 in your handouts. This is focusing on switching to Lake Michigan and what's involved with switching to that source. At the top, it mentions what I've droned on about here quite a lot about evaluating 3 different options, adding 3 more shallow wells total, and then installing 1 centralized water treatment plant, adding 3 more shallow wells, installing 2 treatment plants, and then the Lake Michigan water via the Regional Water Commission. Going back a couple of years, the city of Joliet started investigating its options, seeing that it takes a long time to switch sources. We're talking about 2030 for when this actually happens, and I talked with a lot of you earlier about why not tomorrow. It takes a lot of time to put the agreements and to put all this stuff in place. The Regional Water Commission was formed by legislation earlier this year. Springfield House and Senate had to form the Water Commission that would serve this area, and the governor had to ratify it. That's the right terminology. But prior to this, the city of Joliet looked at all the options. They turned every stone for what is the best source of water for them, and if capable, to help regionalize and serve the region. Every step of the way, they looked at it for just them, and what if they could get a bunch of partners involved with this too. They looked at Illinois River, Kankakee River, and earlier on they looked at the Des Plaines River. That one fell out pretty quick. And then they looked at several variations of DuPage or Lake Michigan water. The DuPage Water Commission was one. In early 2020, they came down to 2 options. Either they're going out on their own to Indiana, putting an intake in Hammond, Indiana, and pumping raw water out here and treating it out here and distributing it. The other option that they looked at in deeper detail was purchasing water from the city of Chicago, piping that out here, and distributing it. Earlier this year, in January of this year, they selected the city of Chicago. The other communities in the area are shown there that are in addition to Crest Hill, that are looking at joining this Regional Water Commission as equal members. Romeoville, Shanahan, Shorewood, Minooka, Lamont, Homer Glen, Montgomery, Yorkville, and Oswego. Rockdale is also switching, but as a customer of Joliet. So teaming up and putting a lot more people to help offset the cost, there's economy of scale there. The infrastructure doesn't rise that much to add a Romeoville, but then they help contribute a lot of money towards paying for that infrastructure. So every community that joins lowers the cost for the whole. Next slide, just a little bit of information. There's a schematic there that's fairly small, but Lake Michigan, again, has been a safe, reliable, renewable source of water for many communities in northwest Illinois. So Crest Hill joining in with these communities that I mentioned on the previous slide to switch to Lake Michigan water. The black lines on that schematic represent the city of Chicago's infrastructure. The deal that Joliet got for the Regional Water Commission from the city of Chicago is one of a kind. I don't know if you saw in the news that Lori Lightfoot came out and presented to the city of Joliet. The city of Chicago is losing a lot of customers because of the way that they charge. They charge members that they sell water to the same way that they charge their residents and their businesses in town. So the people that they're selling water to, other commissions, other communities, are paying for their pension, they're paying for their distribution system upgrades, they're paying for the city of Chicago to change their lead lines, they're paying for the city of Chicago to install meters. This arrangement that the city of Joliet has entered into for the Regional Water Commission is not like that. The cost for the Regional Water Commission to purchase water from the city of Chicago is based on the level or the cost of service. How much does it take for water to go into the intake at the south plant, get treated, go into the deep tunnel system out to the extremes of the city of Chicago and be pumped to the ground there? That is the only cost. Nothing to do with the city's 70 miles a year of water main replacement, nothing to do with pension debt or any of that type of stuff. So it is a very low rate that Mayor Lightfoot has pushed to basically, they've got these assets that they've built that have a lot of excess capacity, and they're losing customers. They want to fill that capacity. So when the city of Joliet came and said, hey, we could take 30 to 90 million gallons of water a day from you, what are you going to do for us? They got a very good deal. So that's what that schematic shows in the black there. And then the blue piping would be owned by the Regional Water Commission, which Crest Hill, if they join, they would be a member of that. That would be partially, they would have a vote on the board. The Regional Water Commission would be administered by an equal vote for Crest Hill and Joliet and Shorewood and whoever joins. So that light blue infrastructure schematically shown going out to this region is all Regional Water Commission infrastructure. The city of Crest Hill does not have to maintain it. All of that maintenance is paid for. As the pipeline comes through town, and it is literally planned to come through town one way, regardless as to whether or not Crest Hill joins the commission. All the routes that we've seen have taken the pipe through town on its way to Joliet. But if Crest Hill was a member of the commission, on its way through town, the water would be dropped off into a reservoir, and that's where Crest Hill would purchase the water from the Regional Water Commission. So, and that would be on its way to Joliet. Crest Hill would actually receive the water before most, if not all, of the city of Joliet purchased any water off of that pipeline. So the next is a picture of the plant. I actually think it's the Jardine plant, but that would be the billion-gallon-a-day plant. The Hazen Sawyer plant, which is the half-billion-gallon-a-day plant, on the south side of Chicago uses the same treatment process. So again, the allocation has to be, the allocation process has to take place. And there's some information about what that entails. And then I've spoke about the routes. On the next slide, slide 6, this shows the schedule for joining the Regional Water Commission. Starting on the left-hand side, January 2020, I already talked about this. The city of Joliet decided it was going to Lake Michigan. They looked at 2 different avenues to get to Lake Michigan, either on their own to Indiana or from the city of Chicago. In January of this year, they decided to go with the city of Chicago. In June of 2021, Strand has been working with the city for a long time, but we were specifically retained to do this study on is this a good cost option, and this is about the time where the state had determined that there was trace levels of PFAS in some of the wells. Here we are today. The Regional Water Commission is currently moving as far forward as they can with the design of the system. You reach a stopping point when you don't know how many communities are joining. It's tough to size a pipe and a pump and all of that when you don't know what your flow needs to be. So they are under a time crunch to get commitment. By the end of January, the communities around Joliet must commit to whether or not they're joining the Regional Water Commission. And that is so the design can continue and be completed. So those communities can all get their Lake Michigan allocation. It's about a year-long process, and so that all the agreements can be put in place and constructed. So that's a lot about the Regional Water Commission, and I'll pause here again for any questions.
My name is Gary Littleborski. I'm a resident in Carolina Lakes. My question is, who is the Regional Water Commission?
Yeah.
Who makes up the whole commission? Do we have any say-so?
Yeah. So the Regional Water Commission, other communities are trying to decide now whether or not. Hypothetically, let's say Joliet, Shorewood, Crest Hill, Shanahan, Minooka, those are the communities that decide we want Lake Michigan water, we want to be part of it. Each of those communities would have one vote. I don't know if I named off there now. I think I named off 5 communities. So they would meet, they would assign a board member to represent that community. They would come to meetings and do we want to spend this much money on this item? And then there would be a vote on that. So it would operate like its own entity. And I might let you speak to the question. Oh, there you go.
So the way, hi, I'm the city attorney. The way it's currently set up, as Chris mentioned, every participating community will name one person from their corporate authority to represent the entire city on the board. There are going to be a number of actions that the Water Commission Board will have to approve, and that'll be a vote just like the City Council votes, but with one vote coming from each participant community. There are other actions that will also require City Council approval, so you'll have kind of a 2-step control process where depending on what is being requested, not all of this is set in stone, this is still being negotiated by the various communities, including Crest Hill, that are looking at joining the commission. Once they all join, they're going to work out in the form of an intergovernmental agreement, IGA, which was referenced on the slide, how exactly all the board governance will work. What requires commission approval, what requires unanimous approval or a supermajority, more than half of the votes. What things will also require local council or village board approval. So that's still kind of in flux, but in general, every community will have a say.
Okay, one more follow-up. Now on rate increases, they could approve a rate increase, but does the state have to ultimately approve it or not?
Well, so the rate increases are going to be dealt with via contract with Chicago. There are controls on what that can be. The current agreement, which is preliminary in nature, it's currently between Joliet and Chicago with the intent that once the commission is formed, once all of the members are in place, that agreement that will be assigned to the commission, then it'll be an agreement between the commission and Chicago. The rate will be changed based on Chicago's increased costs. And Chris will get to this in some detail later, and we'll talk about this later, but there are basically 3 metrics that'll be used with a maximum cap of 5%. But that's something that will be coming from Chicago to the commission and then down.
Suzanne Watka, 16610 Buckner Pond Way. I would like you to go back to Deep Tunnel. I don't understand that because Deep Tunnel was built, and all of us that came from Chicago, Cook County know that Deep Tunnel was to help the homeowners when the rivers raised so high that the water went into the deep tunnel.
I have to apologize. That was terrible terminology for me to use.
I mean, I'm looking at drinking water and sewer water.
So the city of Chicago doesn't operate their water system because of just the huge size of it, like most municipalities with elevated storage tanks. We're not going to call it the deep tunnel because that's a totally different.
Please don't.
Sorry. The 2 treatment plants put their water into a tunnel system that runs deeper than the distribution system, and these tunnels, they're pipes. They're big pipes, 10-foot diameter, carry the treated water out. Anywhere where Chicago needs to obtain water, they put in a pumping station. They drill down they build a shaft down to that deep tunnel, and they pump it out into the system. And then that pumps to a shallower water distribution system like you would have here. So they use these fingers that come from the water treatment plant to carry treated Lake Michigan water, large diameter spokes that come out, and the Regional Water Commission is tapping onto one of those spokes, not interfering with the City of Chicago's distribution system. There are some entities, Bedford Park, for instance, there are some entities that tap onto the City of Chicago's distribution system, and so there's costs that are incurred by the City of Chicago to get that water through all of those processes, through the deep tunnel, pump it into the distribution system, pump it out to them. There's more costs associated with that. So by the Regional Water Commission going straight to a deep tunnel, the City of Chicago doesn't incur the cost for that water or pass on the cost for all the surface level distribution. Long explanation for, sorry, totally not the deep tunnel system that carries the storm water.
I was worried about that. Let me tell you, my husband worked on welding those pipes together, so I do know a little bit about it. It saved my parents' basement.
It's very good product, but yeah, don't drink that water.
Are we still going to require water softeners with Michigan Lake?
No. So there might be a time period where there's a transition. It's not going to be immediate. It's not going to be January 1st, 2030, where you can stop filling that thing. It might take a couple of months to get that to that point to where you can stop filling that thing.
Because I have Culligan water softener, and they got to come and change the filter thing every so often.
Yeah,
It gets a little expensive.
Lake Michigan water is very high quality. I lived in Bolingbrook when they did the change, and it took about 6 months before I realized I could stop feeding that thing.
Because when I had the water softener, I had to go through a hot water tank that went out on me because of the water being so bad. And I had to replace the toilet too.
And sir, just for the record, can you state your name one more time?
James Kisner.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ed Harkins. Chris, you mentioned the pipeline running out here, and we have our own reservoir. Would we not be using the water tanks we have now, like we have down on Division.
I'm going to get to that, but a quick answer is those, you are still going to be using all of your existing infrastructure, including those water tanks.
This is a reservoir you're referring to? Is it an open reservoir? Or
I shouldn't call it a reservoir. It would be a storage tank. We don't know enough about the supply system to know how tall that tank is going to be, but it would be another storage tank like the ones you see
in Naperville and wherever. I've seen the different looking ones.
Correct. It might be like the one off of Airport Road up here in Romeoville. I don't know if you've seen that one. It might be taller than that, but definitely closed and sanitary.
Thank you.
Hi, Rosemary Dasho. You talked a little bit about the deal that Lori Lightfoot, the pitch that she made to Joliet that said, no, you don't have to pay for pensions, you won't have to pay for this. It's just going to be for the cost of water. How long, was that just like an incentive, like, for 5 years? What kind of transparency around that agreement?
So the agreement that they put together is for a 50-year term with 50-year renewable, so basically a 100-year agreement.
Okay, so for 50 years, there's no pension funding, there's none of those other things.
Correct, yeah. We can get into it now. I hope I don't repeat myself here in a couple of minutes, but the city of Chicago has 3 mechanisms to adjust the rates. All of them are 100% auditable by agreement. They have to allow the Regional Water Commission or the Regional Water Commission members to audit that. Either the Consumer Price Index, 5% cap, or most likely the lowest, which is the one that you get advantage of. The lowest of these 3 is the cost of service, which is the cost increases of getting the water through the plant, through the treated water tunnel spoke thing, and into the Regional Water Commission. That has run for the past, I don't remember how long they did, but has been 1.35% annual increase. So that's what's anticipated for a long-term trend.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, just one point of clarification. We talk about pensions and get concerned because Chicago, as you may know, owes some back pension pay. The agreement is that they aren't going to pass along any of the pension costs related to the surface distribution system. Once the system starts in 2030, the Regional Water Commission will have some pension type service stuff for its infrastructure, its employees, not its infrastructure, but its employees to run its infrastructure. And there's a component that's still in the air as to whether or not Chicago will be able to do it for the employees that are working the facilities, both the tunnel, the pumps, and the water treatment plant that actually serves it. That's still in the air. There will be some pension component, but it's not set to start until the system is in operation, and they can't drag the Regional Water Commission into their current situation when it comes to their overall pension for their whole surface distribution network, which is massive.
Mary Jane Nelson, and I have a question. Now, is the pipeline working now that will bring the water to Joliet? Because I know you would have to have a pipeline and maybe another pumping station. Now, how long is it going to be before that's effective?
Yeah. So none of that infrastructure is in place. At this point in time, the city of Joliet has acquired land at Durkin Park near 84th and Kedvale, or 83rd and Kedvale, right on the border of Oak Lawn and the city of Chicago, to build the pump that withdraws out of the tunnel and the reservoir. All of the pipeline out here still has to be designed. There's preliminary design, there's preliminary routing, but the design has to be done, final design, bidding. It is, depending on how many communities join, you're talking about $1 billion worth of infrastructure. So this is not something that the industry can even possibly build in a year. It is currently staged to be set to be staged over even as early as 2024. Some communities might start early on their internal infrastructure. But the Regional Water Commission, 2024 to 2029 is when they want to build all that infrastructure, and then commission it, have a year to commission it so that it can be turned on in 2030.
Oh, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to be long gone by then. Thank you.
Wish I would have prepared how to respond to that.
Hi, my name is Sandy Merrick. I noticed on here Homer Glen. Now that doesn't pertain to Crest Hill at all, but right now they have city water, and they've had city water for in excess of at least 15 years.
That's correct.
And for a family of 3, the sewer and water is about $250 a month.
Correct.
Are they thinking
They are
of
very interested in this. They have attended all the meetings for 3 years, 3 years, because they are on Illinois American water. Illinois American provides them in Bolingbrook and Plainfield, and I think portions of Woodridge. They are very interested in this because the rates are so much less associated with this.
Right. Okay.
So they have an agreement that isn't going to be up by January 31st, but they're still.
Yeah, because it's been 15 to 20 years for them already, and the rates haven't dropped. They've been pretty much consistent.
Yeah.
And with no outside water use, just, day to day.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, Bonnie Ligorski. I had a question. You talked about the water rates from Chicago being capped at 5%. I'm hearing the increased sewer rate. Is that Crest Hill's expense?
We'll get there.
Okay.
That's Station 4, so it might be easier to just go through all of that at that time, but that question will be answered.
All right, thank you.
Good. Oh, we got one.
Jack Mayer, first of all, I was in Oak Brook before and after they got Lake Michigan water. The showers were better and the water was substantially better tasting. And in addition, Lake Michigan water, I believe, I thought I heard one time, is like the safest and the best tasting literally in the world. But my question is, with the Regional Water Commission, you didn't mention Lockport. What's the situation with Lockport?
Yeah, Lockport, you want to go?
Lockport has not, Lockport has not been attending, but obviously the Regional Water Commission is open to anybody who would like to join in this area. But at this time, we can't speak on what Lockport is going to do or may do in the future. But at this time, obviously they weren't on the list, and they really haven't participated in the last year. So we can't say what they're going to do in the future, but at this time we know they're no longer interested at this time in the Regional Water Commission.
So in other words, they've got some other source and they do not have Lake Michigan water right now then?
I don't know if they have. They are currently on shallow, the same aquifer shallow wells. Okay. Yeah, somewhere in there. All right, well, we'll go to the next one while Mark figures out how to answer. I think we're on 7. So this next station is, how does this affect me? What are the pros and cons that we could come up with for joining the Regional Water Commission? Pros associated with joining the Regional Water Commission in bringing Lake Michigan water to Crest Hill. Less expensive than treating for the PFAS and chlorides. Improved water quality, thank you, sir. We just talked about that. Water feed rates, firefighting abilities, and pressures will remain consistent or improved compared to what you're currently getting. As part of the study, we did look at the water system. We have a computerized water model. We wanted to make sure that in no places do people's pressure diminish, and in no places does the fire flow diminish. So we had to bring all the water into one part of town, as it would be with the Regional Water Commission, and then add some minor improvements in town to fool the water system into thinking that nothing just happened, so that nobody's pressure or fire flows change at their house. Additional water storage is required when you join with the city of Chicago. All communities are required to have 2 times their average day demand in storage. This is more than would be technically required, but they want you to have this so that they can do planned outages, and you would have enough water in storage to be able to meet that short term. For instance, I was working with Downers Grove the other day, and they had the pipeline supplying them had to be fixed. They said we need to be out of service for 8 hours. I gave them time to fill up all their towers. Nobody in town knew it. They had plenty of water in storage. The other reason for 2 times the average day is if there is something major, if there's something that's going to take a long time for the city of Chicago or for the Regional Water Commission to correct, you've got time to activate your wells and make sure that you keep water supply going to, I shouldn't say you, the city has time to activate their wells and make sure that you continue to get a source of water supply. I know of no instances where that has occurred, but it may have occurred. So the city does have to add storage, which we'll talk about later. Partnering with surrounding communities to implement sustainable drinking water practices and conserve a precious resource. Obviously, regionalization is a more efficient process. When you partner for these types of things, it spreads out costs and it becomes more efficient. Water rates will remain comparable to surrounding Chicagoland communities, or better. Again, these are the lowest rates. Some entities down the road, DuPage Water Commission, may be able to take advantage, will likely be able to take advantage of this same rate structure from the city of Chicago, but the city of Chicago is interested in keeping these communities as customers. That helps keep everybody's rates down. The only cons that we were able to develop was future construction disturbances. There's several different routes that the city of Joliet is looking for taking the pipeline. For instance, just conceptual routes. One of them goes down Gaylord with the major transmission main. Another one goes down Caton Farm with the major transmission main. Not saying that that's where it's going to land, but it probably won't be too far from there. So there would be a periodic, temporary, maybe a season of a water main pipe going down those roads as part of this construction. There would also be some of that internal piping that would need to be added that might cause some disturbance for a construction season.
Just the one time regardless of whether we participate, there'll be, this water is going to come through our town one way or another. So I kind of say it's not really a con so much because it's going to happen one way or the other. It's going to come through our town whether we participate or not. So, I mean,
right. So,
you have to look at the big picture.
Tina's saying that pipeline's going to be a disturbance whether or not the city of Crest Hill joins that pipeline. By forming a regional water commission, it gives certain rights. It gives rights to other governmental rights away, so they are able to take that pipe through other towns without those communities being able to stop it. Otherwise, there's 13 communities between here and Chicago that would create monumental roadblocks for that. Thank you, Tina. The next one, how does this affect me and how can I help? Another requirement when you get a Lake Michigan allocation, the city is going to have to pass some ordinances for conserving water. The state of Illinois, IDNR, takes water loss very seriously. They do not have much water to divert from Lake Michigan, so all of their allocations come with the requirement of reducing your water loss to 10% or less. The city of Joliet was running over 25% water loss when they first went through this process. They are replacing a large amount of water main every year to reduce the amount of water that leaks from their pipes. in order to get down to that 10% by 2030. That is a requirement. So water conservation is going to be important. Water conservation is also going to be important for your water bills. The less water you waste, the less water goes through that meter, the lower your bill is. Some of those things, any new construction or remodels, water sense equipment is good, or appliances or fixtures are going to be required. There's a lot of tips on here that I'm sure you've all heard about shutting off the water while you brush your teeth and take shorter showers. This is probably not the crowd to worry about those types of issues. Lawn watering, it'll go to even odd, which I think it already is. It currently is a requirement. And there's other landscaping things to conserve water. But is this a question? Okay. I'm not getting any questions on this one. You guys are water conservatives, I can tell. Any questions about those? How does it affect you? All right, here we go. Water bill. How does this affect my water bill? So this slide 9, shows the cost impacts of Lake Michigan water. The cost to perform that corrosion control study is one that will take place probably sooner to make sure that everything is okay. And the cost to obtain that Lake Michigan allocation is going to take place right away. That allocation has to be in by March 31st in order to meet the timelines. So that process would get going, and that has a cost associated with it. Crest Hill's portion of the Regional Water Commission, so all of these pipes and pumps and tanks are being built. A portion of the size of those things in that infrastructure is going to be Crest Hill's. So that's a cost associated with paying back the Regional Water Commission for that infrastructure. And then internal to Crest Hill, as I mentioned, the receiving tank would be a 3.5 million gallon storage tank. That's the amount of remaining storage that you need on top of the existing storage that you have to get to that 2 times the average day. So you're 3.5 million gallons of storage away from that right now. And then a 4.3 million gallon per day pumping station to pump water out of that tank into your system, and about 3.5 miles of additional water main. So those are the costs if you switch to Lake Michigan water. For comparison, the cost impacts of switching to shallow wells, and it's not on the list, but you're also going to have to do that lead and copper corrosion study. You need to construct 3 additional wells, 2 advanced water treatment plants, raw and treated transmission mains to go to the plants and to take the water back from the plants. And then the operation, maintenance, and energy costs to run those new water treatment plants are considerably higher than the Regional Water Commission. The number and the level of licensure of the water operator is significantly different, significantly higher if you're running advanced water treatment plants than Lake Michigan water. So regardless of what the city chooses to do, rates are going up to input the necessary infrastructure. So here's the sheet that shows conceptual water rates, and these are all your utility rate projections. They're projections based on the debt that would be acquired to put all this infrastructure in, and then spreading that out over the ratepayers. This does not include any grants or lower interest loans that are very likely to be able to be obtained. Any grants or lower interest loans could reduce these conceptual costs, and there's a lot of variables involved with this. It's not a precise. We can't predict a lot of things going into the future, but. First off, I'll say this is all based on the bi-monthly water bills of an average user using 1,000 gallons bi-monthly. So 500, not gallons, 500 cubic feet every month for a 1,000 cubic feet bill. So in 2010, this person's total utility bill, or this family's total utility bill, would have been $88. In 2021, that same current water bill is a utility bill, I guess that's it, is $150. $50 for water, $55 for sewer, $40 for garbage, $5 for debt service, $150. By 2030, if you go with shallow wells, the water bill for the average customer for 2 months will go from $50 to approximately $125. The sewer rate we're shown is increasing based on 5% per year increases. Sorry,
So the 2030 estimated bi-monthly bill, and this is just an estimate, is up to $90, and that does include some infrastructure improvements we need to do to our east and west sewage treatment plants. As residents, you may have heard, our west plant does need an infrastructure upgrade. These numbers include those numbers, so we're not going to be adding additional on top of.
All right. So the Regional Water Commission, compared to $125 for the shallow well treatment, was showing to be $110 on a bi-monthly basis for an average user. By 2050, which is a very far off projection, and if it is actually this, I'm not getting paid enough. But it would go up to $135. There's a very slow increase I want to finish this. For the Regional Water Commission, it would go from 110 up to 125. The reason that is a very slow increase is because, again, Chicago's average rate increase using this cost of service approach has only been 1.35% per year, which is much lower than even inflation and CPI has averaged over a period of time. So those are the resulting water rates. Total utility bills going from 150 this year to 260 or 270 by 2030, and then to 370 to 380 by 2050 is what the rate projections are. And I hope I can 2050.
If I understand this correctly, this is going to be gradually going up to this amount, right? I mean, from the day we agree on this, you're talking about 2021.
Yeah, so
it's going to go 5%, am I understanding correctly, all the way to?
No. So the current 2021, as you see in front of you, is for 1,000 cubic foot. That is 1,000 cubic foot over 2 months. And I just want to explain, especially the people in this room, if you go home and look at your water bill, you'll be able to say, it shows on there how many cubic foot you use per month or per billing cycle. If you're lower than 1,000 and you're lower than $150 currently, the 2030 rate will be lower than what our estimate is. If you're higher, you'll be a little higher. This is an estimate for 1,000 cubic foot. So I just want to get that out there real quick before I answer your question. I apologize. So in next year, I will say this with fact, your water rate will not be $260. We're not jumping that huge amount in 1 year. We will slowly be gradually taking that number from the current rate up over the next 9 years to get us where we need to be in 2030. 2030 is the year we're using because that's the year we're commissioning the system. That's when we have to start paying back some of our larger debt for the system. 2050 is a year we're using. I know these are kind of two totally random years in 2030 and 2050. 2050 is the year we're using because that's what we're telling the commission is our maximum build-out year. The city of Crest will be maximum build-out in 2050. So to answer your question, yes, this will be a slow rise over the next 9 years. Next year, your rate's not going to jump to $260 per bi-monthly.
I didn't think that was what it was going to be. What it is this is going to be just the cost of getting our water that we're getting now slowly rising. Is this going to be also apply to whatever construction and, all these studies that are going to be going on? That's going to be
These are all encompassing numbers.
encompassing numbers, going to be gradually. Now, is this where you talk about like a 5% raise?
So we don't have the exact raise yet because we have to wait for council to make the final decision. We still have two options on the table. Once the final decision's made, we will come back, staff will come back to council and let them know what that projected rate needs to be over the course of the next 9 years, and then they'll make that decision. So I can't tell you it to be 5.12%. I can't tell you that because number one, we're still fine-tuning our numbers with a fine-tooth comb, and number two, the final decision has not been made yet. I hope that answers your question in a roundabout way.
The curtain will be pulled back when
Once we make that full decision, staff will come back to council and give them the exact numbers, and then council will make that decision. Oh, sorry, sir. One more time, clerk, what your name for the record one more time?
Do that.
Sorry about that. Sir, in the back.
My name is Aslam Karimji. Just a quick question regarding the construction cost and all that.
Yep.
An infrastructure bill was just passed and put into law.
Correct.
Why don't you guys mention that if anything's going to be paid for that, and why do we have to pick up the tab?
Yeah, sorry, sir. That's where I should have been more clear. This does not include any grants or any of that money from the infrastructure bill. PFAS was mentioned in that bill. Lead service lines mentioned in that bill. Certainly, a lot of opportunities to offset some of these costs, and can't guarantee that comes true, but there should be a lot of opportunities for Crest.
Because mainly also regarding Flint, Michigan, with the water problems, the lead pipe, and it was heavily being discussed by the politicians, and I'm saying this is just one of the other things. We need water supply. So why is nothing mentioned, and that everything does not include grant? We should include it. You should know by now, right, that how much of the money you may qualify based on the project. At least that should be known approximately.
Not known at all. It's just not known. Any grants or any other money that comes in for because of PFAS or the lead service lines that are in there. Certainly, it seems that there is going to be a lot, but nobody knows how much they're getting as a community to offset those costs.
But will this cost, the construction cost from A to Z, does it qualify under the infrastructure bill just passed into law, or none of this will apply, and we have to foot the bill eventually?
Are you talking the capital bill?
No, the infrastructure bill that Biden just signed into law.
Build back better.
Water supply to
Not the bill, the infrastructure bill.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in the industry. I've seen a couple of emails on it with bullet points. That's how much is known about what's in that bill. But those bullet points say the words PFAS and lead service lines in it, and are the talking points. We certainly think that would apply in many areas to this. It's not likely to fund it 100%. The other thing that I want to mention is the City of Joliet has received WIFIA funding, up to $750 million of WIFIA, Water Infrastructure Finance, Infrastructure Act, Water WIFIA funding. It's a very low interest rate, and the City of Joliet is going to turn that over to the Regional Water Commission, and the cost for Crest Hill to purchase the infrastructure, the pipeline, their share, the city's share of that infrastructure is going to be leveraged on that loan already, that very low interest loan from WIFIA funding. But I do, we can't tell you how much grant money, we don't know how much grant money would be.
But sir, if the city chooses to join the Regional Water Commission, we will have a better opportunity to receive more federal funding to offset some of those costs than if we were just to stay on our own system here. Then our chances would probably be slim to none. So this would enhance us to reach out to our legislators in Washington to receive more of the federal funding to offset some of the costs of these projects. Can't guarantee what's going to happen over the next several years, even in Washington.
Thank you.
Karen Perry. I just have a question regarding the sexual increases in sewer and the garbage and yard. Are those also contingent on all of this, or is that just normal projections of those would also go up, or is it contingent on what we're doing with the water?
No, the garbage rate is an estimate based on our current garbage rate expires in 2027. So that's just a conceptual rate that we want to use an apples to apples comparison. We didn't want to keep the rate the same because we know it's going to go up a little bit in 10 years. We know it's not. We don't know how much exactly it's going to go up. We negotiate the garbage contract as a city, so that's more of a placeholder number. The sewer rates are pretty contingent based on the west plant and the east plant rehabs. Those numbers are firmer, whereas the garbage is our best using of our knowledge and our resources to get a good number in there for you. We don't have the exact garbage rate because that's our next contract negotiation, our next bid opportunity for the garbage rate. But the sewer is pretty darn close.
Okay.
Terry Rupp, Carolina Lakes. I have two questions.
Yes.
One, and I don't want to offend anybody, but in this commission setup, all the users are charged at the same rate from Joliet to us to Romeo, to whoever jumps on.
Correct.
So that's like, we're not going to get jammed, excuse me, Joliet, but by Joliet.
Those rates, sir, are set to the commission through the city of Chicago. Just like Chris mentioned earlier, everybody pays has the same amount of votes. The rate we pay the commission is the same. The difference is how much internal improvements each city has. Crest Hill is very fortunate. We have fewer internal improvements than some other cities may have. Our water rates will be competitive and at the lower end of all the regional cities, or all the surrounding cities, because we have fewer internal improvements. So that rate that we're paying the commission is set across the commission. The internal improvements and the internal rate structure, that's the difference between cities. So to answer your question, the rate we're paying to the commission, which would be paid in Chicago, is the same across everybody who joins the commission.
Very good. The other question I have, so I guess I don't have any.
Well, we'll be around answering questions afterwards as well. If you remember, come find me. She's coming up. Yep. I know you've been waiting patiently. Thank you.
No, that's okay. Bonnie Leborski again. So I heard you just say that our rate is flat, it's set, right? No matter how many other cities. What is the purpose of telling us how many other cities are looking at joining if it doesn't impact our costs?
It helps with the capital costs. The capital cost to get the pipe from Chicago to here is split among those communities. The volumetric cost to purchase the actual water is what's set. And that has those three cost inflations in it. The cost to get the pipe from 84th or 83rd and Kedvale to Crest Hill and through the commission, that's what will be split amongst those communities. So if you look at the piece of the pie of being the pipe coming from here to there, the more ways we can split that up, the better.
I just recently moved from Homer Glen, so I'm very disappointed now to hear I did not escape the high water rates.
So I will tell you they probably will be lower than what Homer Glen will be paying.
Because for 2 people home, we were paying $170 a month for just water.
And so our projection is $260 for 2 months, so it's still lower.
And they told us that this is a better, you don't have to use the water softener, you can get rid of the reverse osmosis, it's going to be better for your appliances. And by the end of it, the 15 years, we were dying.
Yeah, and the big difference between a city like Homer Glen and ourselves, is ours would be through a commission of other municipal parties, whereas Homer Glen is by a private company in Illinois American. That's the big difference.
Yeah, you know, when this all started, Joliet reached out, there were 12 communities, all the way up to Oswego, Montgomery, and Yorkville, that wanted to join Joliet. It's whittled down now to the possibility there's 7 that have shown strong consideration to join. Romeoville, Crest Hill, Joliet, Shorewood, Shanahan, Minooka, and Lamont. Okay, so during the course of how we whittled this down, and the mayors have met monthly for the last year and a half, and now we're meeting twice a month. The mayors have met from all these communities, the attorneys, the engineers, the public works people, everybody has gotten together. And I want, everybody should know this, that when Joliet first signed the agreement with Chicago, the line was supposed to come down I-80, and it was supposed to, the terminus was going to be on the southeast side of Joliet. That would have meant that if a city like Crest Hill wanted to join, we would have had to make the infrastructure to go get that water, go under the canal at a great cost that would have been. Through the negotiations over the last year and a half, the route has changed, and now it's coming right through our back door, as was explained to you. And it's going to terminate somewhere along Caton Farm Road for us, whether we join or not. So that was certainly a strong game changer for myself personally, because now it's right at our back door. The infrastructure that we would have to put in would be less. So going back to your Homer Glen, I was with Mayor Oderkirk today at the Catholic Charities Luncheon, and he was speaking and talking about the Lake Michigan water. And you know, Homer Glen, Bolingbrook came up. And one of the people asked a question, and they said, you know, the way Joliet is doing this, and the way they're trying to get the other communities to join at an affordable rate is fantastic. They're actually trying, and you probably know this, they're in a lawsuit now, I believe, to try and get out of Illinois American Water. And the individual made a comment to the mayor, and she says, maybe one day we'll have the opportunity to join you. So, you know, that was very impressive, because even they're realizing this was a great deal that Joliet got. And the point is that at one of the presentations we had on Monday night, somebody said, why don't we just wait until 2035 when all the infrastructure is in the ground, and then we join. But, you know, if we jump on the bus now, we are first in. If we're on the commission, and then if somebody wants to join in the future, the commission will vote to let them join or not to let them join. If they do join, it will lower all of our costs. We'll then be receiving, because we were one of the originals, we'll be receiving some of that money to offset some of our costs. So again, that may be a great opportunity for this commission to get larger and get more water also, all to the area. And then we would be, let's say, more in control of everything also.
So follow-up questions. If I heard you correctly, you said originally there were 12 other cities?
12 were interested in joining,
And now it's whittled down to 8?
7.
Do you know why the other ones changed their mind against this option?
Well, I will tell you that the ones up north, Yorkville, I personally, I believe they probably used a little leverage to try and get a deal closer to them. And I think now they're going to the Fox River or to Aurora or to the DuPage Commission. So, I mean, everybody has to take a look at this for how it's going to impact their own community. We are the closest community to Joliet. We abut them. I mean, for us, with the line coming right down Caton Farm Road, to get that water before Joliet does, like I said, we have to seriously consider this, because that was a game changer.
Thank you.
You mentioned in the previous section that the loss ratio in Joliet is 25%. What is it in Crest?
Yeah, Chris just mentioned, Joliet may have been higher, but that's just a round number we use for Joliet. We're anywhere between 7 and 12%. It all depends on the season. Obviously in the summer, with more water usage, with landscaping, lawn watering, our percent loss will increase because of more water. In the wintertime, it will go down. Wintertime it is still a little artificially high because of water main breaks. We cannot quantify how much water is lost during a water main break. It's pretty tough. But we're anywhere between 7 and 12% on a rolling basis.
Mike Purcell. With the monthly rates going up that you talked about, does it stand to reason that in municipal usage for the city and the county, their water usage would increase our property taxes?
Can you repeat that one more time? I'm going to let an attorney handle that question because that's way outside of water and sewer.
Can you repeat the question? Sure. When our monthly rates go up for our residents, does it stand to reason that our property taxes will go up also because of the water usage from the city and county municipalities?
That is difficult to answer at this point, but the water system and its rates and then the municipal finance system through the taxes are separate. Part of the reason for that is that the law requires the water system to be self-sustaining and to pay for all of its maintenance, operation, capital improvement, all of those sorts of things. So the water rates, and this is going to be true here with the commission as well, the water rates going to the residents are going to go up. The water rate that the city would have to pay for any water it's getting will likely go up, and that's funded through the municipal budget. So the short answer is it will affect property taxes in some way, but to what extent is very difficult to say.
Thank you. But I would say that your home value would go up if there was Lake Michigan water. And the other thing I want you to know that we have two separate funds. We have a general fund, and then we have a water and sewer fund. And those cannot be mixed. So what you pay for your utility bills for water and sewer has to stay in the water and sewer fund, and only that money can be used for water and sewer. The general fund would be more for your road projects, for police, for administration, those types of things. Okay?
I was wondering what type of financing are you using in order to do the infrastructure for the pipeline? What method of financing are you doing?
We're looking at anything and everything. Like Chris mentioned, the city of Joliet was qualified for WIFIA funding through the federal government for up to $750 million. Some of that would be passed along to the commission. So WIFIA is a federal low-interest loan. The state revolving fund through the Illinois EPA, which is another low-interest loan. We will be looking at general obligation bonds, any type of bonding, and of course, with the and anything that grant or financing that comes from any infrastructure bill, grants out there, we will be looking for that as well. So I can't really pinpoint that one source of funding because we're going to be looking for everything. We're going to leave no stone unturned to try to keep your rates low as possible through looking at grants and alternative funding.
Jack Banks. First of all, I hope everybody in this room realizes that we're sitting right next door to the greatest source of fresh water on the globe. And it would be foolish, in my opinion, to not take advantage of it. And I would like to thank all of you for the very sincere efforts you've put forth and a very thorough presentation. Thank you.
My name's Ray Ranke. Basically, I'm going to talk about the water leaks that a lot of people here have and don't realize it. I discovered it. I was over at a neighbor's house doing something else in the basement. Nobody was upstairs. I heard the water running. I said, wait a minute, I'm the only person in the house. Why is the water running? Well, it turned out the flapper valve in the toilet tanks, they wear out. A lot of people don't realize it. So every so often, when the water level gets down, the tank will refill. It's very quiet. You don't notice it. It's at a point where I keep flapper valves hanging in the basement. I got, keep about 4 of them on hand. Again, I have many wives in the neighborhood, but we won't get into that. But the last time I replaced one was yesterday. So I just want to bring that up. There is a way to check for it. After you make a flush, after it's settled down, throw some food coloring in the tank. The next time you come in the washroom, and if there's coloring in the bowl, you got a leaking flapper.
Thank you for that information, and also the City of Crest Hill City Hall does have dye tabs for your toilet if you need to pick some up, free of charge. If you go to utility billing, they have little packets of blue. If you don't have food coloring, we do have blue tabs for your free pickup. Sir?
Note on the flapper valves. We had a situation, we got home from vacation, he turned the water back on, and after about 3 weeks, I got a notice from the city saying, you're using excess water. And he came out and visited, and we found out it was ever so silent, the flapper valve, and it was just overflowing for those weeks. So the city came forward and notified me. It cost me $400 by the time, but had they not notified me, it would have been a lot worse.
Thank you. Sir?
Leonard Leopold. Questions. Water Commission.
Yes.
You say that we each have 1 vote.
Yes, sir.
How many votes does Joliet have?
Same. One.
Same.
One.
Okay.
One. If you're a commission member, you get 1 vote.
Okay.
It's the same as city council, same as an HOA board. If you're on there, you get 1 vote.
Next question. What's our next move?
So as Chris put on the slide a little bit ago, city council will need to make a final decision this January. Once they make the decision on what our next move is, everyone here will know. We'll have a press release to let, once council makes that decision of if it's going to be treating our wells with advanced water treatment or the Regional Water Commission, we'll release it in a press release. We'll put out newspaper articles, just like we have been for these meetings. So we're going to get it out there.
The residents here get to vote on this?
No, city council votes. These forums are for the residents to give their input to city council, and then your elected representatives will make that decision.
Jack Mayor, I would caution people regarding that infrastructure bill that was just passed, because Congress has a habit of naming bills just to, and then it was a 2,000 or 3,000 page bill at least, and it's believed 20 to 30% only actually dealt with true infrastructure, and people define infrastructure differently. And so, if you give an example, like the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, was unaffordable for people who were forced to pay premiums of $20,000 or more a month. So,
thank you.
Stuart Silver.
Hi, Stu.
Question about what happens with the existing aquifers. Currently, they're refilled by rainwater.
Yes.
And then they're drained by our usage.
Yes.
When they're not being drained, what's going to happen? Are we going to have to be concerned about flooding?
No. So the amount of water that the city of Crest Hill takes out of the Silurian Dolomite Aquifer is minuscule to what it is. The Silurian Dolomite Aquifer is actually the same water that is in the canal. So as it rains, that water is in the canal and it runs. You know what I mean? That water table is fairly consistent and not going to keep rising. Good question. Thank you.
No.
Question? Yeah.
Mechanical packing, yeah, that is legit. I've replaced the flappers. The little question is, why don't you start raising the prices? Because I probably won't be here to drink any of that water unless I go swimming. It sounds like we won't see this water for 10 years, roughly. You want us to start paying now. I'm still paying for my kids' high school education. They're 50. Their kids are getting out of high school too.
Yeah, so
what was your name one more time?
So what was your name? I'm sorry?
Okay.
So, yeah, rates will slowly start to increase in order to, there are costs that are being incurred as far as these studies and applications, so rates will start to increase, but also to start to build a fund that will offset the initial cost, but rates will slowly increase to ramp up to that level.
One of the things I would like to say that people should take into consideration. I grew up in the city of Chicago, so I know what Lake Michigan water is like, and it's great. Then I moved to Vernon Hills. We had wells, and it was awful. And then after they switched to Lake Michigan water, it was fantastic. Now coming here, it's terrible water. And I've been here for 18 years. And one of the things that I have heard complaints about, people could not understand how many times they've had to replace their water heaters and the water softeners you're going to save on, and also salt and drinking water. Everybody drinks bottled water. Also faucets that get full of lime, things like that. So in the long run, there will be a savings.
Hopefully on flappers as well.
Flappers too.
Ma'am, can you state your name for the record?
Sorry.
All right, I would ask anyone on city council would like to make any comments, please.
I got it this time. Well, I just want everyone here to know that we take this very seriously. I have been independently researching many aspects of this since we first started talking about it. I'm especially concerned about the contamination part. I've been an environmentalist my whole life, and I've always believed in lowering our carbon footprint and conserving and reusing and reducing and pollution. These are all things that have always been very important to me. I think that in the beginning, when we first looked at this, I was totally against this Lake Michigan water. But since I've been educated independently and through these gentlemen, I have turned completely around. I don't think we have any other viable option. I think it's the best thing for the city, for our future, for our children, our grandchildren. And sir, I want to tell you, I'm on water heater number 9 in my home. I've been in 31 years, so I appreciate what you're saying. And
Buy a quality one,
the
and you won't have the
conservation aspect
problem.
of it, everybody can do that. You can get toilets that use less water. I bought a front-loading washing machine many years ago that doesn't fill the whole thing up. I can't believe how much my water bill dropped when I went to that. So independent of what they told you, look at different things you can do. I scream at anybody that's at my house that leaves the water running when they're brushing their teeth. They think I'm crazy. Fill the cup up, you know. They're little things, but you don't understand how they add up when you put them throughout the whole community. So I just want you to understand that me personally, I am for this, and I take it extremely serious. And I do thank you all for your time tonight and coming here.
Well, I have nothing more to add regarding the content of tonight's presentation, but I do want to thank all of you for making time in your day. We know everyone has busy lives, and we appreciate that you feel and understand the importance of this issue. So I just, again, want to thank you all for coming out tonight.
Just 2 quick points I want to make real quick. I heard the mayor touch on this, but, you know, because there's a lot of folks there. I've talked to a lot of people, you know, since I live here about the water and what's going on with it. There's a lot of folks, you know, in 10 years, that's a long horizon. But in my humble opinion, and that's all this is humble opinion, I think this makes your property more valuable. Ray touched on that. If Crest Hill was the only city that didn't have Lake Michigan water here in 7 or 8, 9, 10 years, could be an issue. There is a risk here not going to Lake Michigan water. This is the safe bet. And I wanted to say that. And the other thing I wanted to mention too, we are so fortunate that Joliet, you know, they had a different reason for this. They're running out of water. We're not running out of water. We heard about PFAS 4 months ago. That's what we got real concerned about. And the cost that to keep our water clean, what we were going to start running into here over the next several years. So there were concerns, and all of a sudden we heard, Joliet's doing this water commission. Of course, we knew about it already, but then we started hearing some of the positive things Ray's already touched on. That pipeline's going to be coming right through Crest Hill. So we're going to be able, as Tina pointed out, I'm for this, and I really think it's a good thing for the future of Caroline Lakes and Crest Hill. That's it.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank everyone for coming out. My position is a little different because I grew up on Lake Michigan water, living in the city of Chicago most of my life. I know the quality of Lake Michigan water. I pretty much swear by it. I believe that this is a great idea for the city and generations to come to be on Lake Michigan water. The people I talk to in Cook County, the projections that we're seeing on our projected cost analysis, they don't think it'll be that much because of the fact that Joliet have a locked-in rate, and you can't expand that much off that rate. So I think this is a great deal. I want to thank our city engineer and our public works director and their staff for bringing this to our attention. And I want to thank the mayor for moving swiftly on this. We could be one of the cities not on that list and pay a much higher price to get on that list later. Thank everyone for coming out.
When we first got started in this, I wasn't too much excited about getting lake water from Michigan. And I think, well, as they told us all the problems we have and what could be happening, the years it's going to happen, I think, well, maybe we ought to go along with this. So I thought it was a pretty good idea because I'm looking out forward to my family, your families, everybody that's going to come in. This may not help us all over here, but it's going to help generations after us. And I think we have to leave the kids in an area where they have something to look forward to. The country doesn't seem like it's running that good anymore, but we got to leave with something that makes me happy. So I'm going along with this system myself.
Okay, I would like to thank everybody for being here tonight. A lot of people have left, but it was a great crowd. Thank you for following all the rules. Because thank you for your patience, your cooperation, and at least everybody was able to hear. So, we answered a lot of questions tonight. All of the staff is going to be by the stations. If you want to ask a private question to anybody at any one of the stations, they'll certainly take the time. We'll be here as long as you want us to be here to answer all your questions. I would just like to say, I know my wife's in the back. We are very happy to be in Caroline Lakes as new residents. So I just want to say to everybody to have a very blessed Christmas and a very happy and healthy New Year. So God bless each and every one of you, and enjoy your time with your family over the holidays. With there being no further business before us, the work session for this evening is ended at 8:26 p.m. Thank you, good evening, and thank you for all of your thoughts and comments.